Welcome to the Interstate Mets Report with your hosts, Nelson and Chris.
What's up, everyone? It's your guys, CP and Nelson here, back with episode 24 of the Interstate Mets Report. Wow, we have a lot to talk about, and it seems like not much has happened, but then again, everything in the world has happened with the Mets leadership and front office. So before we get into all of that, obviously make sure you're supporting the stream, hit that thumbs up, drop your comments and opinions on the debacle of topics that we're going to be talking about today surrounding Billy Eppler, Buck Showalter, etc. We'll get into some of the David Stearns press conference talk as well. Make sure you're following us on X at Interstate Mets first and foremost. Make sure you go ahead and follow Nelson at Amish Country Met on X. And subscribe to Nelson's channel if you're viewing it on mine. You know the deal. He's Amish Country Mets fan on YouTube, and vice versa. I'm at CPNYSports on YouTube, and you can also find me on X and Instagram at CPNYSports. Same handle all around. It's Friday. Let's not fumble around anymore with our plugging, and let's get right into it, man. This is interesting. We're going to talk about the juicy stuff second and third. That's tertiary, that's secondary. Right now, I want to talk about what we thought of David Stearns' press conference. Obviously, we saw that he got introduced, had a little side by side, which, by the way, I'm not sure if Steve Cohen had one too many the night before, but he was looking a little rusty right next to David Stearns. And the SNY YouTube channel, the comments section was definitely letting him know about it. I mean, he just threw on a sports jacket and said, "Let's do it." I don't even know where I am right now. So, but in terms of the actual content that we heard David Stearns talk about, I know we got it, into it on Talking Mets with Rob, with him and Hayden on the Mets Roundtable. But let's sort of just echo in and reiterate those thoughts and what we heard out of David Stearns and Yariel Rodriguez. Hey, Nelson and Chris. Pete is gone. He signed with Boris. That's the other news that we didn't have in here, but I'm sure we'll speak on that as well. So, yeah, go ahead, Nelson. I want to hear your thoughts about David Stearns and the whole press conference and what he had to say.
I don't even have comments on that, to be honest. It was good. Like I liked what I heard. Up until the Boris news about Pete, I thought it was a good sign that he said he would be our first baseman to start the next year. But now I'm like, I don't know where this is going. He said all the right things. He's sounds legit. I like what he said about being a fan. He did a secondary interview with a couple guys. He did an interview with Boris, and then he did an interview with that Mike Janelle, I think is his name. He does like spaces on X, and he does like a lot. He hosts like the City Field stuff. So, and he asked him about his fandom and how he juggles that with being the president, and he had a good answer. He said he can't. It's hard for him to separate that completely. He admitted that. He said, but there will be times where he has to do things as a president that he wouldn't necessarily agree with as a fan. And I respect him for saying that and for admitting it. I think it's cool that he even is a fan. Like it's cool that he still like identifies as a Mets fan. Like that's pretty awesome. You don't see that very much in the game. Most guys kind of separate themselves and leave that aside. He said we're going to compete. Like we knew we were. Like a lot of people, there were some people that were they took Max's words as gospel and decided we're not competing next year. I don't believe that for a second. So yeah, I was good with it. A+ from me.
There we go. And obviously, we still have to give our Mets end of season Mets player grades. We will do that probably next week. Will take us a little bit more time to put those together. So we'll go ahead and do that this week. I just wanted to address all the things that we have on the screen here today. So I guess, you know what? I'm kind of shocked, not really shocked in terms of, Pete Alonso switching over to Boris Incorporated, I think his company's name, but we all know him. The Mets have dealt with him. I'm not entirely sure. I agree with this comment here in terms of him being a goner. Obviously, they overpaid for Nemo, who was represented by Boris. Edwin Diaz also signed a deal. So Steve Cohen has dealt with, Scott Boris really, really, really recently. And I'm curious to see the extent of that relationship and how close they really are. It's no doubt in my mind, and I tweeted this and I saw you reply to the comment, in the comment section about Pete Alonso potentially, now that Boris is representing him, he's going to want that $30 million a year, right? That's probably going to be the first and foremost sort of negotiation starting point. And we all know Freddie Freeman's making 27 over there with LA, would be the next highest paid first baseman in the league. But in terms of the actual David Stearns press conference, I agree with you. The one thing about it is that I honestly genuinely felt like he was being transparent. You know what I mean? I felt like he was, coming from a good place, and obviously he was relating back to his Mets fandom. Even threw a funny quote out there. You could tell he was hesitating on actually saying it, but how he used to sneak into the stadium back at Shea Stadium when he was younger. Obviously, a lot easier to do in those days, but it felt genuine, you know what I mean? And it felt like, we have someone who's actually going to put, the team's best interest at heart. And I'm not saying the previous guys in the front office haven't done that, but I'm saying is like he's 10 toes down and he wants to deliver this city a championship because he knows, how good it's going to feel with him being a fan too. So I loved everything he said. Obviously, he said that he's going to bring some learning curves over from Milwaukee, but it's not feasible to operate the New York Mets like the Milwaukee Brewers, right? Which is absolutely true. I know we talked about the whole pitching and power aspect of his philosophy moving forward in terms of that transferring over to the New York Mets. Obviously, pitching, the staff, bullpen has a lot of work to do. So he's going to put that on display, no doubt, this offseason. But yeah, David Stearns definitely gave me a good feeling as a Mets fan. I still don't get the fans that are just crapping on this signing. I still see it. I just don't think those fans are going to be satisfied until they see winning baseball following what the Mets produced this season. You know what I mean?
Well, let's face it, there's some fans that are never satisfied. You
Yeah.
can do everything right, and they will find something to nitpick about. So those people, you can't placate to those people because you're just not going to make them happy. So
Yeah.
they can
I
bug
agree
off.
with you. And yeah, and it's something where no, I completely agree with you. I mean, that's that. And then the whole Pete Alonso talk as well. I mean, we all have talked about this. If Pete Alonso does somehow get traded, um, that's why I'm personally surprised David Stearns went as far to say that in full confidence that, they have zero intentions on trading Pete Alonso. Because now it gets to the point where you don't come to the contract negotiation, an extension agreement with Pete Alonso in the offseason. You're like, hey, we don't even want to let you see the field. We're going to trade on you high because he had a decent season, albeit, right? Obviously the average wasn't there. We all know that, but the OPS was there, the power numbers were there, the RBIs were there. You can sell still high on Pete Alonso. But now that the president of baseball operations in his introductory press conference said that that's not going to happen, I can only imagine the chaos that would ensue if he were to go and backtrack on his word. So we'll see what happens there. Are you a little surprised that he said that in that press conference like so blatantly? Because that shocked me.
Well, yeah, I wasn't expecting it. Then again, he did say he didn't say will be. This is it. He said he expects him to be. You can expect anything. That doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Right.
Obviously, I mean, a logical fan knows that the Boris thing can change things. Like, not necessarily. I mean, we've seen a Boris client in Nemo play through his contract and then he stayed with us. It was a different scenario. Obviously, we kind of had to sign him. We overpaid for him. Like, there's not much of a doubt there.
Yep.
Could that happen again with Pete? Maybe he plays through and then we sign him when he hits free agency. It's not ideal, but then again, we've talked about this before. I don't see Pete having like a crazy huge market out there. Like at the end of the day, he's probably gonna get the best offer from us. I don't know how many teams are gonna be willing to give him what he wants. So I think it'll all work out. If we do trade him, though, if we get to that point where we don't think he's coming back and we trade him, I'm gonna live with it, and it's fine. It's gonna suck, but it is what it is. I these fans that are just like, you have to sign him no matter what, and you can't trade him, and you can't. Like, I don't believe in that logic. Like, you have to do what's best for the team. I'm not out here looking out for what's best for Pete Alonso. Would I like Pete Alonso to stay? Yes. Do I want him to stay? Sure. It just, if it can't happen, it can't happen. Like, that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. 100% well said. Like you said, we root for the front of the jersey and the Mets on the front, and obviously we all have our fanhoods of certain players, whether it be Pete, Lindor. Obviously, DeGrom had a huge following when he was here, and we saw how that situation went out, and played out. So, 100% agree. We got depressed Mr. Met in the house, and he's feeling the sentiment that Pete won't be here much longer. Do you put much stock into, I think it was a fake report, but the whole Chicago thing and the Cubs about him wanting to go to Chicago?
I have
Like,
no
where did
idea
that
where
come
that I have no idea where that came from. I don't put much stock in that. I mean, the Cubs would be a solid fit that they could use a first baseman. They have some money to spend. It makes sense. They have prospects to trade. Um, so I mean that could make some sense, but I don't know. People are looking for something to write about to get clicks. The Mets are always the way to do it. We know this. We talk about it over and over. And that's why we're never not in the news. It's like nonstop. You can't go 10 minutes without some freaking news. I don't think any other team would have gotten this coverage over an investigation. Let's face it. Obviously, if it was bad enough that Eppler had to resign, it he had to have done something a little over the top, but
Mhm.
every team manipulates the IL.
Yeah.
Every single team. This isn't a thing that just the Mets do. I'd love to know what exactly obviously somebody tipped them off. You can
Yeah, we'll
speculate
talk about
whether it
that.
was luck or a player or whatever. We'll get to that. But I mean, I can't imagine how bad this actually is. But he felt the need to resign over it. It's
Yep.
whatever. It's just again, it gets sensationalized because it's the Mets. The Mets are always gonna everything with the Mets is gonna get taken over the top. And we just have to learn to live with it. I know it's annoying, but it's the life we lead.
Yep. No, I agree. And then the president, Mr. Met, said whatever's best for the Mets. She definitely agrees. So, and then we have another comment here. Shout out AP tuning in. A different sentiment. I actually would be okay with him leaving if the money is insane that he's asking for. It sounds crazy, but I think the money could be better spent in other places if he's going to want to break the bank for the Mets. Agree. I mean,
I agree with
that
that.
would definitely be, yeah. I mean, that's perfectly said. I won't even expand on that. That's perfectly said. And we got our boy Rockies correspondent Josh in the house. Mets need to bring back Tim Tebow. Talk about a PR stunt, an absolute pathetic PR stunt from the Wilpons there.
Here's a comment I have for that. AP says it's Halloween season. Why not just do an exorcism and get it over with? Tebow is Mr. Religion. Bring him in. We'll get the exorcism done. We'll wash away all our sins, and we'll be ready to go for 2024.
There you go. I like that plan. I like that plan. And we are fully into the off season. Can't wait to bring, news on this podcast, this live stream, the Interstate Mets Report, and talk about all the latest happenings. We finally got this torturous season out of the way. So we are going to be in full force of the off season. So let's talk about Buck Showalter. Obviously, the Mets, they let him go. It was sort of, I guess it's a mutual agreement. I'm sure Buck Showalter wanted to stay. And I even heard that he's looking at a potential situation with the Angels because he wants to stay managing. Obviously, the Angels let go of their manager as well. I think it was Phil Nevin, if I'm not mistaken. But Yeah, this was sort of an odd way, and the way that it happened had Buck Showalter's Crusaders, or however you wanna call them, his fanboys. He had a fan base, man. I mean, I get it. He had his fan base, and he broke the news instead of the Mets breaking the news that he was going to be gone. I think it was in the pregame press conference of the final game, right? I think that's how it happened. So, obviously, we've already said we've come out full force, like, "Oh, by the way, we can retire this now." I don't know if you know this, but we can retire this now because
Yeah,
he's officially gone,
yeah,
so we
we're
can
good.
retire that. But, yeah, I don't really care, how it happened. I think you and I on this show were pretty adamant about being proponents of him, taking that next step, and no disrespect to Buck, I just wanna say that and what he's done for this organization, obviously, back in 2022, had a great season, manager of the year, but with the way this team is projecting and the youth coming in moving forward, I think we agree that this was the best option for the club. So, what is your take on it, just for official record on the Interstate Mets Report?
Yeah, I mean, I had the Buck Crusaders or whatever you want to call them after me on X. I had a lot of people. I was taking shots left and right on X this week. I had the
Ah,
McNeil fangirls after me. I had the Buck fangirls after me. I had Formula One sicko fans after me. It's crazy out there. But anyways,
mhm,
um, yeah, obviously I'm good with Buck going. And it's no, like you said, it's no disrespect to Buck. He had a great year. I get it in 2022. It just what I saw out of him and the Mets in 2023, they didn't give me confidence going forward. I needed to see a change. It just something wasn't meshing. And yes, you can blame Eppler too. And I'm not defending Eppler. Like I don't. It's funny because if you say anything positive about Eppler, they like you're somehow labeled an Eppler fan. Like no, I'm not an Eppler fan. I thought he did a couple nice things. We can talk about whether or not that whole story about it was his call to have Vogel back in the lineup. I don't know. I feel like the truth is somewhere in the middle. Like at first,
mm,
I thought during the season, and I said it hand up. I thought Buck was in charge of the lineups. I just thought a veteran manager like that would have final say. But I mean, I guess I didn't take into account baseball has changed a lot. So there probably was like a well, I don't know what you want to call it, a joint role in making these lineups out. At the end of the day, though, Buck is the one turning in the lineup card. He, if he was that adamant about Vogelback not playing, he could have changed it to whatever the hell he wants. He's not handing it to the umpire. Like, what's Eppler gonna do? Fire him? I don't think so. Is he that afraid of Billy Eppler? Like, you're Buck Showalter. You're a tenured guy that the media loves. Like if you really wanted to push back, you could have. Like I feel like you're kind of throwing Billy under the bus, but at the same time, it's not like you're a meek new manager that can't step up and fight for what he wants. Like I think there's a middle ground somewhere, and there's a story like there's two sides to this story. We're not getting Billy's side, obviously, but it's just I don't know. That whole situation is ridiculous, but it is what it is. It's over. Like I don't even know why people are arguing about it. Like regardless of who made the lineup, the Mets stunk. And
yeah,
even if Vogelback didn't play, the Mets were still gonna stink. There was no magic elixir to fix the Mets. And you can't just not, Buck has to take some of the blame for that. I'm sorry, he does. No matter how much you like him, there's no way that we can go from 100 and something wins to what 70 something
yeah,
and it not be any fault of the manager. That's just not realistic. You can argue about Billy Eppler and the moves he made or didn't make all you want, but it is not realistic for some of that fault not to go to Buck. It's just not. Now, if you wanted to argue from the jump, they should have just both been fired. I don't disagree with that. But at the end of the day, Epler's gone anyway. So you got what you wanted. If you wanted his head on a stick, you got it. It didn't wasn't exactly the way you wanted it, I guess, but they're both not here. So whatever.
No, I agree. Well said. I mean, I have literally zero, points to add on. What you just said absolutely is spot on. The point that I want to bring up is that, I'm just happy that, and we'll get into the next topic here in just a little bit, but um, I'm just happy. Like, this is refreshing to me, this change that's going on. Like, and if the players aren't happy with what's going on, they can see the door too. Like we've said this so many times, we want to see players that believe in this front office, that believe in the movement, and that want to be here. And if you don't want to be here because your favorite, manager, coddled you in the clubhouse and you had a great relationship with him and now he's all of a sudden gone, then so be it. I don't know who falls in that category. We saw some Pete Alonso, talks about him and, really, trying to fight for Buck Showalter and his job and expressing some concern to Steve Cohen over it. He falls into that category. Anybody else can go too. Like I quite frankly do not care at this point.
Can I?
You get paid. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I just want to say to that point, like, yeah, there were those whispers, reports that Pete was like very upset after the firing. Um, and what's funny to me about that is the closest guy to Buck on that team was probably Lindor, and he handled it like a professional should. He chilled. Now, whether or not that Pete Alonso stuff is legit or not, who knows? But
We don't know.
it's like, you're right, though. Like, if you're so upset to the point where this is like detrimental to you, kind of like when the whole Nimmo trade deadline crap happened. Like, if you're that upset, then you just need to go. Like, I don't have time for that stuff. I need you to be focused on what's better for this team. And you're gonna have a new manager. You got to deal with it. You're a grown man. Suck it up and let's go. Like, what are we doing here?
Exactly.
We're not playing little league ball. Like, we got to grow up, guys.
And if not, then they'll send you on the first flight to Anaheim, and you can go play for the Angels, where Buck Showalter might end up. So, no, I completely agree. Now, switching gears here just a little bit while we're on the whole Buck Showalter talk. I mean, now, and we'll talk about the next steps for GM as well, but the next steps for the manager. We've been talking too much about Craig Counsell, but I did see on your X account earlier today that you are a proponent for Espada coming over and potentially getting the job, was a finalist before with the Mets managerial sort of candidacy. Obviously, he's there in Houston right now, definitely next in line, I would say, to sort of get a managerial role. I think the same thing can be said for Eric Chavez, but I forgot who said it on the roundtable in the comment section, or maybe I just saw it on X. Shout out whoever said it, but I think if the deal goes through with Oakland to move to Vegas, I think they probably bring in Eric Chavez to be the first inaugural manager over there, which would make sense. And that would be kind of cool. It would be sad to lose him, but I don't think Eric Chavez is going to be that guy right now for the Mets. What do you like in, Espada? What do you see? And is that no? You said he's your top candidate. So, after him, who's the second closest option for you after him? I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, yeah, I've been doing like a whole breakdown on X. I've broken down so far. I've done Cora, I've done Counsell, Pat Murphy, Ray Montgomery, Mike Schilt, and Joe Espada. I think that's everybody, and Eric Chavez. Um, I Alex Cora is my pipe dream hire. Obviously, he's probably not leaving Boston. So that was like my first choice, but it's an unrealistic choice. And Espada is my second guy. Espada is the guy. I love that he's learned in Houston. I love how well he seems to work with the players there. He's got an infield coordinator background. He's always doing like infield work with guys. He's bilingual, which is something that I don't think people appreciate how much that could be important, especially with a team like the Mets with younger guys coming in that are Latino guys that only speak Spanish or speak very little English. Like, yeah, there's interpreters, but things always like I love our interpreter. He's cool. I speak Spanish. He screws up. Like things get lost in translation. Like sometimes it just doesn't little things, and that can be important. Like to have a manager that can just directly speak to a guy and not have to have an interpreter there. Like I feel like that's an important thing, especially this day and age with there's more and more Latino players. I'm not saying we can't hire an American manager. I'm just saying, like to me, that's a little bit of an X factor per se.
Yeah.
So I like that about him. I like that he's learned in Houston. Um, he's got a New York background to an extent. He did do some coaching with the Yankees. Um, I just think he's had enough of a track record. I know he's never managed before, but I think he has enough of a track record that he could fit. Um, Other than that, I've said I'm fine with Council if that's the hire. I'm not in love with it, but I can live with it. Pat Murphy, again, another guy, same thing. The Ray Montgomery thing I kind of like too. Ray Montgomery, I don't know. A lot of people know him. He worked as on the Angels as a bench coach. He's a New York guy. He grew up a Mets fan, so that would be like a triple threat of Mets fans running the team. He's got a solid background too, and he's got Stearns connections as well. He worked in the Brewers organization, so I could see someone like him getting hired. Again, a lot of these presidents, general managers, they like to hire guys that they know. So that's why the Pat Murphys, the Ray Montgomerys, obviously Council, those names stick out to me because let's face it, they have a working relationship already with Stearns. So he's got a comfort level there. I'm not saying he's for sure going to hire any of them, but I could see that. Mike Shilt's a guy I like too. The only issue there is he pushed back on the analytics thing with the Cardinals. And we know that Stearns likes analytics. People change though. Like he could be now in a different headspace and be like, I'm all for working with you and embracing the analytics. But he did a great job in St. Louis while he was there. They literally fired him because of it. Their philosophies didn't match. So then it gets to guys that I'm not a fan of though.
I know who those are.
I don't like Gabe Kapler, Don Mattingly I almost said a word. No. Mark DeRosa doesn't impress me. Who's another guy I heard? Ron Washington. He's like 71 years old. Like he's a good coach, but no. I want someone younger, like young, not young, but someone that's going to be here a while. Ron Washington, if we hire him, he can give us a couple years and then he has to go. Like, so those guys I'm out on, but the rest of that list, like, I'm okay with any of those guys, to be honest, to an extent. It's just Espada definitely, he's my number one choice.
Definitely. First of all, can you still hear me? I hope you can still hear me.
Yep, you're good.
All right, I'm doing a mic check because it's been doing that to me recently, and everybody knows that. So, we got M Easy in the chat here. Alonso comes off as a little soft. Definitely agree. I mean, like I said, and like you said, Nelson, we can't take these reports with Alonso. We got to take it with a grain of salt because we really don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But with whatever we've been hearing, it definitely does seem like there's like some sort of thing going on where like, okay, you know, the front office probably wants you here. How bad do you want to actually be here? Behind all the bull crap answers you give the media, I want to be a Met for life, the things that you're supposed to say. How bad do you really want to be here? You know what I mean?
And usually where there's smoke, there's fire. Like enough reports are coming out about Alonso that something odd is going on. We don't know what it is, but there's been so much smoke that there's got to be a little something going on there. There just has to be.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sleevy G, the Sleevy G show is on. My guy Gomez went on his podcast actually yesterday. Should be dropping in a couple of weeks. Make sure you guys are checking him out. Talk some New York Giants and New York Rangers over there. Always appreciate him. Thank you for stopping by. He's a Yankees fan, but gracious enough to tune into the live stream. I'm not a Mets fan, but Buck did the best he could with the New York Mets. I agree, man. I don't really know. I mean, everyone was like the Mets were World Series contenders coming into this year. I don't know if the roster was sustainable for a World Series run this year. like with the additions that they had coming in, the talent, like I guess was there. The veteran presence was there. I just didn't see it. I was wary coming into the season. I had high hopes, but like
I,
the Marcanas of the world, like the Escobars of the world, great players. They're utility players. They're not starters, and they're slotted in to be starters at the beginning of the season. It just wasn't working out. That's just my 2 cents on it.
yeah, I
So
think we had enough talent to play with like the Brewers of the world, the
yep.
Diamondbacks of the world, even. I think when it comes to like teams like the Braves, the Dodgers, Houston, we weren't at that level. I at any point, even if things had broken right for us, we weren't at that level. Granted, if things were breaking right, maybe at the deadline we could have acquired the pieces to get us to that level. You could argue
Sure.
that, but it just didn't work out. It didn't work out. To me, it started with the Diaz thing, and everything just kind of went downhill from there.
Yep. No, I completely agree. The cookie crumbled thereafter. And it just is what it is. And I guess we are in the best position that we could have ever came out of that, torturous season with all these prospects and a whole makeover from now manager. And now we're going to shift over. Emizi says that he would want to replace the GM before he did the manager, which makes sense. I mean, you can go about it either way, but I guess there's some rhyme or reason to that. But yeah, let's get into it, man. I mean, the obvious elephant in the room here is that the whole Eppler thing happened too close for comfort from when the Buck Showalter thing went down. Is there any way that Buck Showalter got a little defensive and it's like, if I'm going down, he's going down with me? What's the probability in your mind for that?
I don't know about a number. Obviously it's possible. Like, listen, I don't know if he did this. He for sure. You cannot convince me that he didn't give Puma that story about Vogelback. He was the source, the so-called source on that one. I'm sorry, you just can't convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
Now with this investigation, it doesn't seem like that's his MO to like burn everything down on his way out. But if he didn't do it, then there's some player on the team that was a Buck fan or didn't like how their injury was handled or something that went chirping to Major League.
Now hold on. A certain player's father was on the Twitter app this afternoon and decided to turn his tweets to protect mode.
Yeah.
Now, what's the deal with that? I know you said you saw what he tweeted. I saw one tweet on it. I passed by. I thought he was talking about his own job, but I should have known better because I was just like, he's probably talking about his own job. He probably still works a modest job, tries to make an income, whatever. But I didn't realize that he's probably talking about his son, Luis Guillorme. What's the situation with that?
Okay, so here's it because I was following him already, so I can still see his tweets.
Okay.
He didn't delete it. It says it must have been very frustrating to work for a mediocre and arrogant boss. Now you can assume that he means Guillorme working for. Well, does he?
Walter?
That's a hard one. Does he mean Guillorme working for Buck? Does he mean Buck working for Eppler? Does he mean Guillorme working for Eppler? Like, you could take that various ways. Obviously, I don't think Cohen has anything to do with this, but I don't know. Who's the mediocre and arrogant boss? That's the question. Like, is it Buck or is it Eppler?
I don't know. You could take that either way. Like I said, I saw the tweet and I was like, I honestly didn't think it had anything to do with the Mets when I first read it. But then when I saw a screenshot of someone on Twitter saying that he went to protect mode on Twitter, I was like, oh, that tweet was not about his own boss. That was about his son's boss or whoever that was, right? Stevie Mac joining the chat as always. Appreciate the support. What's up, dudes? He was just about to mention Luis's dad as well. And he says Luis might be out of a job soon because of his dad. So the Mets don't seem to play any games when it comes to this sort of stuff. But we'll see what happens with that. I thought that was funny. As it pertains to Billy Eppler, like you said, it doesn't really seem like Buck Showalter's MO to do that. I think that really, right, who's the only source that it can come from in terms of the whole Daniel Vogelback playing situation, right? That probably is Buck. I definitely agree with that. But we've definitely seen it. Every team does it. Every team employs a phantom IL. I saw a really funny tweet. I just retweeted. I forgot who tweeted it out, but it was a meme about when Billy Eppler comes up to Tommy Hunter and says, "Your back hurts, right?" Because he went on the IL like 3 times for his back. I know he has back issues, but come on,
Well,
Nito with his eye, like
Nito with the eyes was the most egregious phantom IL stint I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Come on, you just didn't want. Obviously, if they didn't IL him, they would have had to DFA him or whatever. So they manipulated it. It's obvious. It's clear as day. The thing is, though, like you said, every team does it. Now, maybe the Mets made it so obvious that it just stuck out, but I mean, it's obviously not a good look. And I hope we don't get some sort of like penalty for this. Like, I don't want to lose draft picks or international free agent money or God knows what. Like, hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully they're fine with Eppler resigning. But also, like, who else gets, like, do the trainers get pushback on that? Like, who is Epler's not the only one making these calls. I don't think. Obviously, like he has to have medical input. So I'm just wondering where we go with that. But yeah, it's a weird situation. Jeff Passan put out an article. The Mets weren't even like super high on the list as far as like IL. Like they were middle of the pack this year as far as like guys and days spent on the IL or whatnot. Their teams way more had way more IL stints than us. So I don't know. I don't know why, unless it has to be that some player or possibly Buck. I really don't think Buck did this one, but some player had to be upset with the way their situation was handled, and they went yapping. Like it has to be. Like I don't know who that player is, but it just makes too much sense.
That doesn't come out of the blue. Like that doesn't happen out of the blue. Was Luis Guillorme IL'd for some? I know he was IL'd, but like, what was it for, and was it legitimate?
He was. I forget what it was. I think his seemed legitimate. The weird ones were Tim LaCastro had a very weird like injury thing. He was gone for most of the year, and it was like strange. Like it kept changing what his diagnosis was. So that's a weird one that you could like look at and be like, I wonder if that had something to do with it. The Cookie Carrasco, don't forget, the Cookie Carrasco injury was strange. That injury at the end of the year didn't make much sense.
His finger, the one in the weight room.
Obviously the eye thing with Nito. Those are the ones that really pop up. Maybe, I mean, you could argue Marte, he had the weird injury stuff. Those are the ones that stand out to me. I don't know if one of them got you said too, Tommy Hunter with the back stuff. That's another one. I don't know, man. It's weird. I really don't know what to think of it. I just want to put it behind us, to be honest.
Yeah, it is really weird, and that's the reason why I'm laughing, because like if these are legitimate injuries, like obviously no one's gonna laugh, right? But like when we're in this season, like we've been covering this, like we talked about that Carlos Carrasco injury when it happened. We were like, really? In the weight room? Like when you're this close to the season and you know he's not going to be back next year? Was that like, and that was before Ronnie Mauricio came up, right? Am I mistaken about that?
I think it was like right around that same time. I don't remember if it was
somewhere
before
around there. But like as we're going through the season, we're seeing these injuries, and we're like, and you see it like when the Mets come out with their tweets, like the official account says XYZ has been put on the IL, the 15-day IL. Everyone is like, Mets fans are like, wow, this is the most phantom IL thing I've ever seen in my life. Like we all know it, and it's just funny that this came out like when it did. I know you think, I think there's disagreements, and people are still having these disagreements about the job that Billy Eppler did. Obviously, a lot of people are sort of kind of angry now that the whole Billy Eppler, like we all speculated Billy Eppler had a good relationship with Stearns. Stearns said that directly in his press conference. from Stearns' press conference, we would have never guessed that Billy Eppler was going to be gone just a couple days later. Never guessed it.
And I believe
So
someone reported that Stearns actually still wanted him to stay. So I forget who said it, but Stearns actually wanted him to stick around even with the investigation.
Oh, even with it. Okay.
Billy just decided it was too much of a distraction. He didn't want to have that weighing on the team, which I respect that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
It sucks that we have to go find another GM for like the 5th freaking time. And now we're going to have to take time to focus on hiring a GM when we could have just focused strictly on a manager. So that sucks a little bit. But listen, I'm no Eppler fanboy. I was willing to live with him being here. I'm perfectly fine with him not being here. I just hate the situation and the fact that it's always got to be a laugh out loud Mets thing. Like, that part of it sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I saw a conspiracy theory out there, and it was like actually a decent one until I obviously realized that hold on, Billy Epler's getting investigated now. That doesn't really make much sense, but someone said that obviously Billy was like let go, because Stearns would like I guess the Marlins GM Kim, blanking on her last name,
I could never pronounce it right, but
yeah, and that Stearns wanted to see, and she's done a decent job with the Marlins. Like, I'm gonna give her credit where credit's due. Obviously, they're a playoff team this year, and the Mets weren't. I think her contract is over. So yeah, that was an interesting sort of topic. Everybody's just throwing conspiracy theories out there nowadays. Like, we don't have the full reports. We're getting this clickbait type headlines, and everyone's just gonna run with it. That's just the season, and it's gonna keep happening in the off season. And wait until the Ohtani clicks or start coming in and the headlines start coming over there with that guy. It's going to be a field day. So let's see here. We got Jay is in the house. I love P, but if he wants to go, then adios. I'm a Mets fan, not an Alonso fan. Completely agree. 100%. Well said. The Giants had twice as many ILs as the Mets. Yep, 100%. That's why we're saying like someone, player or buck, doesn't matter who, someone within the organization definitely told. And I'm sure they know who that person is. So keep an eye on any transactions happening with those guys that had those weird injuries throughout the season.
Just touch on that.
Go ahead.
That's the one thing that makes me think it could be Carrasco, because Carrasco's at the end of his career. He may just retire. It may not have any blowback for him at all. The other guys, they're going to need a job, and nobody wants a snitch on their damn team. Like that's the thing that gets around. So I don't know. Snitches get stitches.
No, I agree. I mean, the Carrasco's got nothing to lose, so you're right. That's also another theory. C-Max says, pretty sure Eppler was at Stearns' press conference. Yeah, I mean, that would make sense. It was really shocking to me, to be honest, because I was just fully expecting for Eppler to just continue on as the GM and just him. And the other thing is like maybe Eppler was like, all right, I'm just going to do this because I know I'm not going to have any say with Stearns in the house anyways. I know they're good buddies and all, but he probably wants to go somewhere once this investigation clears up where he can have some reins and make his own decisions. So he's got a career too at the end of the day. Pending the investigation. I mean, I don't know what repercussions are for phantom IL penalties, but I'm sure he'll be fine. Stevie Max says, bring James Click in for GM. What do you think, Nelson?
Yeah, that's a solid. I mean, if we're going to talk about, I'll just give you a short. Obviously, Kim, I'm not going to say her last name. I'm going to screw it up. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Obviously, that would be a solid choice, I think. I like the guy from Houston. Again, it's a name I can't pronounce. Sig something, Medjol or something like that. He's their assistant GM, I believe. He has Stearns connections from back in their days in Houston. He's a freaking rocket scientist. It's pretty, like, he has a cool kind of background. Smart guy. I like him. Forget his guy. I think it's Carlos Rodriguez out of Tampa. Another guy I like. There's a few guys out there. It's hard. Like, general managers and front office people are a little bit harder to dig up information on than managers or candidates. There's just so many different people, and there's so many different roles in different front offices that you could go down a rabbit hole forever. There's obviously guys that work for winning teams that people are gonna want, like obviously. So I don't know, but I'm sure they'll make the right choice, whoever it is. I hope they can get it done quick because I think it would be nice to have them on the same page, like the president and the GM on who they're hiring as manager, as opposed to going president, hire your manager, then tell your GM, well, this is your manager. Like, I feel
Sure.
like it would be nice if they could work together and figure that out. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure soon enough we'll hear about candidates and who's coming in for interviews and all that.
Sure. No, 100% agreed. One name you didn't mention, I'm not sure if you're a proponent. I don't think you are with the way his Red Sox days ended behind Bloom's out there. I know we talked about that, tandem working maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Heim as a number two, I don't mind that actually. Like Heim as the head guy obviously didn't work that great in Boston. There was ownership issues there. They kind of forced the Mookie trade on him, stuff like that. So maybe he gets a little bit of a pass. He did really well in Tampa in his role down there. So I don't know. I don't know what the relationship is if he has any with Stearns there. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily mind that one. I know some fans might turn their nose at it just because of the way things ended in Boston, but I don't think I'd hate that one.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It would be interesting because, like you said, his Tampa days, obviously got him that gig with the Red Sox, and he's still well respected. I mean, regardless of his Red Sox tenure, and I know Mets fans, like you're right, they're going to be pointing at that and be like, "Oh, we hired this guy." Well, come on now, like, you know what I mean? But that tandem would just like excite me. And I know we talked about that in one of the previous episodes. We've done 24 of these now, man. It's time is flying by so quick. So yeah, no, I mean, we'll see how it plays out. Like I said, you named some good candidates. I'm not as in tune with the whole GM world as some people are. I don't really concern myself with that. I just, we got Stearns in here. Show me the players. Like, I'm gonna grade you by who you bring in, right? And who departs. So that's how I grade. Easy says with Boris gone, or with Boris as his new agent, Pete Alonso speaking, he's gonna ask for 10 years. I don't doubt it. I'm not giving Pete
He was
Alonso 10
already
years.
asking for 10 years. The thing was that we thought with his other agent he might budge. With Boris doesn't often budge on anything. So that's my fear, is that he's gonna stick to that. And we've talked about it. I'm not a fan. I'm not a proponent of giving Pete 10 years. But we'll see what happens. Maybe they still figure it out, but I don't know. It does provide a bit of an obstacle.
Yeah. Sig Mahal, I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know, don't quote me, but I tried to. Assistant GM in Baltimore is also a former NASA employee.
Yeah,
He's an analytics man.
he's a rocket
All
scientist. That guy's a freaking
exactly.
genius.
It's crazy. Before we close things out, I mean, I know it's not Mets related content, but the baseball playoffs has started. I know we're not, I'm not sure how much you've watched. I definitely watched the Rangers, obviously.
Let's talk some playoffs.
Yeah. Rangers took 2 games, knocked off Tampa. That was a good little series. Brewers obviously disappointed again. People are gonna use that to not correct counsel in the Mets talks 100%. Don't really know if it's his fault. Again, the Brewers just really didn't perform. The Diamondbacks are scrappy. It is what it is there. And then the Phillies knocked off the Marlins. Dude, the Blue Jays, man, what's going on? They can't get over the hump. I mean, seriously, I don't know what's gonna happen over there in that Vlad Guerrero situation, but they lost to the Twinkies, and I don't know. It's
What's
it's
funny
it's
is that's
looking
the
pretty
battle of
dull over there.
that was the battle of two teams that can't hack it in the playoffs. Like the Twins and Blue Jays never can hack it. One of them had to win. The Twins did. And now the Blue Jays are the ones with the monkey on their back of having not won a playoff game in God knows how many years. So I don't know. That was fun. Little series there. Now we got to deal with this Braves Philly series. It's like the Mets fan series from hell. And you know what I hate? That atmosphere in Philly for the playoffs is just like insane. I hate to see that. Like, just I don't even know. I don't want the Braves to win. I know that. Like, I don't want to root for the Phillies. I don't want the Braves to win. So I guess I'm rooting for the Phillies.
I'm
I
agree
guess
with you. I would
Blooper,
root
our
for
old friend Blooper, that son of a, you know what? And
Yeah.
Philly fans like got into it on Twitter or something, and it's been like a big thing. I don't know. I'm on the Orioles bandwagon, I guess now. I kind of hope they're like a scrappy team. I kind of like what they got going on over there. And the
Who are they squaring
D-backs,
off against?
Orioles play the Rangers, right? I believe.
Okay, that makes sense. That's going to be a good series.
Yeah, that should be a decent one. And then I I hope the Diamondbacks beat the Dodgers. I'm tired of seeing the Dodgers in it. Not a Dodger guy. And the Diamondbacks have a nice little scrappy young team. I like obviously Corbin Carroll and um, first baseman over there is I forget his name. I'm blanking on his name at the
Yeah.
moment.
Walker.
Yeah, Christian Walker.
Yeah.
They got some
The
fun
catcher,
pieces.
Moreno, I think.
Yeah, Moreno. They got some fun pieces over there, so I wouldn't mind seeing the D-backs move on. And Houston's playing the Twins, so I don't know. I'd like to see. Wouldn't mind seeing the underdog pull that off there.
Correa against his
Also,
former team.
also to help, that would help with the Mets and potentially getting Espada. The sooner
Mhm.
Houston's out, the sooner we can talk to him a little bit. Also,
Yep.
the thing with Espada and the reason we may end up losing him more than anything is the fact that the Astros have been grooming him to be the replacement for a while. So if Dusty steps down or if they decide to move on, one would think he would just step in that role. I'm hoping not, but we'll see. That's a possibility. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Houston. And Houston doesn't look as strong this year as they have in the past. But the Twins are the Twins. I don't know. None of these teams really, other than the Braves. The Braves obviously look like a freaking juggernaut, but none
Yeah.
of these teams are really like stand out to me anyway.
Yep. No, I agree with you. I mean, if I had to root for anything, I agree. Similar to last year, Phillies beat the Braves, then they go on to lose later on. Just knock the Braves out because the Braves really do look like that team that could just make a run again, which I would hate to see. Um, that's it from us. Good little episode. I appreciate the insight. It was some interesting conversations, a lot of speculation, not much facts out there just yet. If anything else comes out that's actually objective and that we can speak on objectively, then we'll do so. But for right now, we're going to speculate just like the rest of you all and like the rest of, Twitter and whatever that's eating up this content from Passan, Rosenthal, Martino, etc. So we'll relay back what we hear. As always, hit that thumbs up button, comment your thoughts and opinions. I appreciate everyone that commented in the live stream. Appreciate everyone popping out. The usuals, you got some new people on here as well. CVG, thank you for popping out. The usuals, I'm Easy, Stevie Mac. The press Mr. Met's been here for a little bit now. AP, appreciate all you guys. Jay popped out. If I missed anybody, I apologize. Follow us on X.
Yariel is an old friend. He just keeps switching names on us. This guy's gone from
Yeah.
Yamamoto to
Jung Hoo,
Young Hoo
and then
Lee
Coffee
to
Milk.
Coffee Milk. Every time this guy pulls
He's the
a
first
name
one.
switch, yeah, he's the first one to comment, and all the other guys that used to comment never are here. So you put two and two together. We're on to you. We don't know who
We
you
are
are,
on
but
to you.
we're on to you, Yariel Rodriguez.
That's right. But respect to you. I respect the grind. I appreciate you. If you have notifications on when we go live, appreciate the support. Nonetheless, you can change as many times your name as many times as you want. But if you're still rocking with us, that's most important. Follow us on X at Interstate Mets. Most importantly, subscribe to Nelson's YouTube channel, Amish Country Mets Fan. Make sure you're subscribing to my YouTube channel if you're watching on my stream, bottom right-hand corner. I'm not sure if you have that feature on your live streams. Do you have that bottom right to subscribe to Amish Country Mets Fan?
I honestly haven't even looked at it. I hope. I have to.
Well, regardless, both YouTube channels, Interstate Mets again, thumbs up, appreciate it. Last final thoughts, send us out of here, Nelson.
Not much, man. I hope we can figure out this general manager thing and then move on once the postseason's over to sign some decent players. Hot Stove's going to be fun, man. I'm looking forward to that. We're going to be here, so come join us. We'll be here every week. I don't know if we'll do 2 episodes a week, but we'll at the very least do 1. And if there's breaking news, we're going to be on it. So just stick around, keep subscribing to the channels. Appreciate everybody watching. Have a great weekend and enjoy. If you're down to watch some other teams play, enjoy playoff baseball. It's always fun.
Great environment. As always, guys, LFGM, and we'll see you all on the next episode. Appreciate it.
Peace.
Thank you for watching the Interstate Mets Report. Streaming Tuesdays at 5 p.m. and Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to @Amish Country Mets Fan and